All right, let's dive into the shadows of the German soul. We're going to meet two absolutely monumental figures, Mephistopheles, the clever demon, and Wotan, the ancient god. Now, at first glance, you couldn't find two more different characters, but as we're about to see, their stories are woven together in a way that really defines an entire culture. So on one side, you've got Mephistopheles. He's a product of the medieval Christian world, a sharp, cynical demon from an age of sin and salvation. And on the other side, Wotan, an ancient pagan god from a much, much older mythology. We're talking raw elemental power. These two are separated by centuries in completely different ways of seeing the world. And that brings us to the big question for this explainer. How did these two, coming from totally separate worlds, end up representing two sides of the very same cultural soul? It's a real mystery, and it's the one we're going to unravel today. Okay, so to get why they're connected, we first have to understand who they are on their own. Let's get to know the main players in this incredible cultural drama. First up, Mephistopheles. He's the ultimate deal-maker, right? The smooth-talking tempter from the Faust legends. He comes from a world with a very clear Christian framework, a place with sharp moral lines, where your soul is basically a prize to be won or lost. He's pure cynicism and manipulation in human form. And then you've got Wotan. You might also know him as Odin. He's from a much older, much wilder time. As the head honcho of Germanic mythology, he's all about that restless, searching spirit. He's constantly hungry for wisdom, wandering the world in disguise, and he commands the fury of both storms and battlefields. A totally different vibe. So, a demon of logic and a god of instinct. Seems like total opposites. And yet, the core idea we're exploring here is that they aren't just separate characters from different historical playlists. Their stories are fundamentally tangled together, woven right into the fabric of German culture, and they create a pattern that reveals just how complex its identity really is. So where do these two opposing forces actually meet? Well, let's turn to the main stage for their encounter, German literature. You see, in literature, both Mephistopheles and Wotan become something more. They level up from their origins and turn into these powerful archetypes that authors use to explore the deepest conflicts of being human. They're like special tools for digging into the unique tensions of the German psyche. Mephistopheles plays the role of the cynical shadow. He's that voice of doubt, the part of us that questions everything and mocks ambition. He represents the dark side of being smart and the corrupting price you pay for getting exactly what you want. Wotan, on the other hand, is the restless spirit. He embodies that ancient, searching, almost tormented quality that you find in the wild old world. He's that relentless drive for knowledge and power, but he also represents the tragic wisdom that so often comes with it. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at how their common ground is laid out here. They both deal with ambition, but from completely different angles. Mephistopheles shows you its corrupting cost, while Wotan is all about the relentless pursuit. They're both all about sacrifice. One demands your soul, while the other sacrifices parts of himself for wisdom. And this just perfectly shows their roles in conflict. Mephistopheles is that internal moral battle, while Wotan is the huge, external, elemental struggle. This connection in literature hints at something much, much deeper. So, for our next section, let's explore how these figures work as symbolic forces in the collective consciousness, in psychology and myth. And here's the crucial point. Mephistopheles and Wotan aren't just dusty characters in old books. No way. The sources present them as active, living forces. They represent these psychological patterns that are still resonating, helping us understand the deep-seated complexities inside German culture. This timeline is a great way to visualize it. Think of it like geological layers of belief. Wotan and all the pagan myths, they form the ancient bedrock, the mythological foundation. Then, way later, the Christian framework was built right on top, bringing guys like Mephistopheles into the picture. But that old foundation, it never just vanished. It influenced everything that came after. So, what do they represent when you put them together? Well, they cover this massive psychological territory. They're the push and pull between temptation and wisdom. They explored the darker, more complicated side of divinity. And ultimately, they personify that timeless human struggle to find meaning in a world that's often complex and contradictory. And here it is, the major takeaway. The fact that these two figures are so deeply intertwined suggests that these two layers of identity, the ancient pagan one and the later Christian one, are truly inseparable. You really can't understand one without acknowledging the shadow of the other. Okay, let's bring this all home. In our final section, let's look at the synthesis, how these two figures from two totally different eras come together to create one more complete legend. At the end of the day, their greatest job is to act as a bridge. They connect two profoundly different times, the ancient, pagan past and the medieval Christian era. They let us see how certain themes and struggles just keep going right across the centuries. This visual just makes it perfectly clear, doesn't it? You have the pagan past with Wotan as step one. Then you have the Christian era with Mephistopheles as the next step. Together, they don't erase each other. They form a bridge that makes the entire journey of the German legend something we can actually understand. And their power lasts because they aren't just literary characters or psychological symbols or mythological figures. They're all three at once. That combo is what makes sure they stay relevant and what makes them still speak to us generations later. So the bottom line is this. By studying the dynamic between a demon and a god, you get this unique insight into the complex, layered, and often contradictory nature of German cultural identity itself. They're like a key, unlocking a much deeper understanding. And that leaves us with one final thought. If the tension between a Christian demon and a pagan god can tell us so much about one culture's soul, well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What hidden, contrasting figures might be shaping our own culture? What archetypes are telling our story right now?